Hello and welcome to Naturally Being Me. I thought I'd actually record this one face to face. Now, a friend recommended me, as I mentioned, to go and watch the TINDER Swindler. I finally managed to watch it, the whole 2 hours. It was a long-ass documentary. I don't do documentaries, not that length of time. Maybe an hour at most. But 2 hours? Oh my goodness me. But it was worth watching. You had these three women that were swindled by this so-called Lothario, his name being Simon Leviev. He was 28 at the time when the first lady, Cecilia, came across him on Tinder. He had this image of this billionaire with this lavish lifestyle. He had no bio, by the way, on his Tinder. He had a link to his Instagram, which showed off all his glitz and glamour, all the flashy stuff, all the designer labels, the yachts, the cars. That there was my first red flag. The first red flag. No billionaire is coming on Tinder to find himself a date or a girlfriend. Nobody of that wealth does that. He would go to, what's that lady's name? The millionaire matchmaker. He would go to someone like her and pay his money to find the right caliber of woman. So that was the first red flag. So those two connected. So she sent her message to him. He pinged her back very much straight away. Hang on. Someone that's a billionaire. Do you have time to be talking to someone you meet on Tinder immediately? Normally you'll be in a meeting. Normally you've got things to do. You may get back to that person at the end of the day, but within 5 minutes? 10 minutes? You're already chatting online? Second red flag. Second red flag. The next thing that happened, he invited her on a coffee date. The same day, he invited her on a coffee date because he was flying out of the country tomorrow. We women on dating sites don't do that. You do not meet up on the same day. Not even 24 hours. You get to know the person online. Maybe in a week you may meet up, but you get to know the person online first. Third red flag. So anyway, she decides to go and meet him at, oh God, where is it? Four Seasons in Park Lane. She walks into this hotel and she feels out of sorts. It's not her world. So she's already in this Beauty and the Beast fairy tale that she was talking about earlier in the documentary, about that's how she grew. She knew all the words to the Beauty and the Beast, all the romance, and she wanted to be wooed and find her husband that way. This girl is 29 years old, still living in fairy tale land. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. I don't know where your head was at. But anyway, let me carry on. So she met him in the foyer of this Four Seasons hotel, saw him come out of the lift, and he's looking very suave and debonair. Yeah, looking the part. So they had their coffee. So she's pouring out her heart to him. He is listening to every single word she says, because that's what she said afterwards. He said he listened to everything I had to say. You don't normally find guys that listen to everything you had to say. Red flag number 4. Oh yes, he was listening to everything you had to say. He was looking for all your weaknesses so he can know how to play you. It was just painful to watch. It was thrilling, but it was painful to watch at the same time. When it comes to dating, you do not give out all your information on the first date. We don't do that. Second or third. Leave that for further down the line, a few months in. Then you can talk about your traumas. But for someone that you don't know, you want to spill your life story on the first date? No wonder the guy was listening. Oh yes, he saw pound signs. Yes, this is my next target. Because you gave him all the information he needed. But did you ask him any questions? Did you ask him any questions? The whole point of dating is to get data. You did nothing of the sort. You let this guy woo you. That's what you did. You let him woo you. You have to go into dating with logics. Not with your heart, with logics. Anyway, carrying on. He invites her out to, he said he's flying out of the country tonight and whether she would like to come to Bulgaria. Oh yeah. He said he needed her passport details to do that. Oh, she was very willing and able to give him all the information he needed. He sent a chauffeur for her to go home, quickly pack her bags and get on this private jet. You don't know the guy. You don't even know him. Where are you going? Where are you going? This girl fast up herself to get on a flight to nowhere. Where were you going flying out to one foreign land? This guy could have kidnapped you. He could have trafficked you. He could have done anything with you. And would be none the wiser. So moving on from that, she gets on this private jet with his entourage, but he's got the mother of his child and the child herself on this same flight. This must be some sort of scam. To me, that just says, that just bleeps red flag, red flag. Where are we going? Where are we going? So when they get to the other side in Bulgaria, she gets in a car with the baby mum and the child, whilst he goes in another car. What's that all about? So you're in the second car with the mother and the child. To do what? So you start asking her questions about him. She praises him. Yeah, he can't do no wrong. But later on, we do find out that same baby mother, yeah, she was one of the 3 ladies in Finland that he had swindled back in 2015. How did that happen? So now she's part of this scam? Oh, I just can't get my head around this. I can't get my head around it. Now she's part of this scam. Or is she looking out for her child that she had for him? I don't know how to read this. But she was one of the ladies that took him to court back in 2015, where he served 2 years for defrauding 3 women in Finland. And what I've noticed as well with these ladies, they all seem to come from Scandinavia somewhere. What's that all about? What's that all about? So fast forward. She went on this trip, had a nice night, slept within the first night, ended up coming back home because he ended up being busy. Next time she saw him, he proposed to her in regards to, will you be my girlfriend? Of course she said yes. Of course she said yes. Again, she didn't know anything about this guy. Knew nothing about him. He had done all the wooing that he needed, all the texting, all the WhatsApping to get her on board. And she was willing to go. Next thing you know, that he had given her the permission to go out and look for an apartment for them because he was planning their future. He was planning the future. For someone you've only met, what, a month, was it? You were planning the future. You were definitely in cuckoo land, living in a fairy tale. I want to feel sorry for this lady, I really do. But everything that added up here didn't make any sense to me. This lady was Norwegian, by the way, but lived in London. So she's going around London looking for apartment. I think it was $15,000 per month. That's the expense of the apartment he was willing to pay. So supposedly he put a down payment on one of the apartments, supposedly. Next minute when they met up, he turned around and said, before we sort of get carried away, I need to let you know a bit more about my life. And he started talking about my enemies. My enemies, my enemies, my enemies. Red flag number 5. Enemies? Darling, I'm out of there. The minute you start talking about enemies, I'm not a part of that world. This is not Bonnie and Clyde. I'm not your ride or die chick. Not going to happen. That's the biggest red flag out of all of it. You should have took your ass home, blocked him, deleted. But as we know, she was too caught up in the lifestyle already that she was already accustomed to. Only a month in, she was already accustomed to that life. He wooed her. He finessed her, as you guys would say in this day and age. He finessed her. Now, his behaviour reminds me of the typical player and the F-boys that you have of today. Yes, I said it. The player and the F-boy that you have of today will woo you, draw you in, and then start asking you for money. I can't remember what red flag I've got to now. But that's what happened next. The next red flag, he started asking her for money. Mr. Billionaire started asking her for money. Hang on a minute. Before I came on the scene, who did you go to before I came on the scene to ask for money? If your luck was down, who would you normally go to? Mummy and Daddy, would it not be? I thought you were the CEO of this LLD Diamond Company or whatever it is. There's just too much information to unpack with this. But he was a son of the heir of some diamond empire. You've got plenty of siblings, supposedly. When I've looked online, there's 9 of them. Supposedly 9 brothers and sisters. And you couldn't ask one of them to help you out? Why would you ask me? Why me? Somebody that you haven't even known for 5 minutes, you would ask me? But as she said, I would expect him to come to me because I'm his girlfriend. Girlfriend my ass! This young lady, oh dear me. He saw you coming. He saw you coming. So continuing on about the enemies. So he has these enemies after him. So her being the dutiful girlfriend, he said to her, could you take out an Amex card for him, but put it in her name, of course. Because he needs to borrow this money because his cards are blocked because of his enemies. He didn't want them to trace him. Something along those lines. Of course. Cecilia, being Cecilia, decides to go and do that. So she passes him the details of her card, which is in her name, by the way, for him to go and spend money on it. That was maxed out, I think, within 48 hours. And I think it was something like $2,500 on it. Or was it pounds? I don't even know. But anyway, so he maxes out the card. Then he comes back to her again to say, up the limit on the card. And as she said, I can't do that. She doesn't have the finance behind it to be able to up her limit in that way. So he decided you can do it if I put you as an employee of mine and I send you the paperwork, they'll do it. Which he did. So she was an employee of his, earning something like, I swear it was $93,000 a month. $93,000! $93,000 a month. Again, red flag. So she goes to Amex with all this information and they upped her limit to, I don't even know what they upped it to. But this guy went off and spent all this money talking about his enemies, still talking about the enemies. But he was living the life with the second girl, which is Pernilla, and also the third girl, which is Aileen, yeah. So Pernilla was from Sweden and Aileen was from Amsterdam. And then there was an extra girl. There was another girl from Russia. Forgotten her name. What's her name? Paulina. But Polina didn't seem to have anything to do with this. I'm not too sure where she came into this, because we never heard about her, whether he swindled her out of money. But she was another side chick. But the main people we're talking about here were Cecilia, Polina, and Aileen. So Polina goes on a date with him somewhere in Amsterdam. She wasn't really attracted to him, and vice versa. So them two just became just friends. But he didn't quite swindle her straight away. That came later. So they remained friends, but they had a good time on Cecilia's money. Yes, Cecilia's money. She was taking out loans on top of upping her credit limit and loans again. In total, this lady took out 9. She had 9 creditors after her. 9. For this guy that she knew a month. She ended up being in debt to the total of $250,000 to this Lothario, Simon Leviev. We all know the saying, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. She should have learnt from the first time she lent him money and she didn't get it back. That was a big red flag. Why would you keep lending and lending and lending and lending for my man to promise you that he'll give you your money back? He gave her the money back by some sort of bank transfer. She kept checking her bank account thinking that this money would be in there. 3 or 4 days had passed, so she rang the bank. The bank turns around and tells her they're not going to clear the check. There's so many twists and turns to this story. I can't remember the whole storyline. It was just too much. It was just too much. But the red flags were there from the beginning. The red flags were there from the beginning. It was just painful to watch. This girl stressing herself out about the creditors and about trying to help him at the same time. She worried for him. The same worry you were having, he was having a good time popping bottles in the club. That's what he was doing with the next chick. Let me not forget about Pernilla. This lady got swindled for $40,000. She took her $30,000 that she had saved for her new apartment and gave it to him, expecting it back. And like I said, he paid it back, but of course it bounced. Do you think I'm giving you my life savings? I don't care. Go and ask your papa. Ask your papa. Ask your family. Don't come to me. And just to keep these ladies sweet, he would write them a check for twice the amount of money that they had loaned him. And they'd be like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, much appreciated. Oh, thank you so much for this. I really was panicking. Yeah, because I've got rent to pay. I've got this to pay. Yeah, they were praising him. Only to later find out all these checks bounced. Now the panic set in all over again. And then we had Aileen that came into the picture later on. Now Aileen was from Amsterdam. She was swindled out of a total of $140,000. Now Aileen, I liked Aileen. I liked the way she did him in the end. This girl, when she found out about what he had done, she made it her mission to try and get her money back. So she tried to get part of her money back by selling his clothes, I think on eBay or wherever it was. Yeah. And did you see what happened 3 weeks in when he still hadn't got any money from her for his clothes? My man switched. He switched. Those phone calls, those voicemails, the voice notes that he was leaving. Ooh. Ooh. Yes. This guy, you saw his true colours. He was effing and blinding. Calling her all the names under the sun. Cussing. And then on the other side, he would turn around and whisper sweet nothings to her, saying, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say all that stuff. I'm just upset. I need the money. Please, if you can, send it to me." And then on the next note, he'd have another rant. Oh my God. Just to hear those phone calls was enough for me. Yeah, you're dealing with a psychopath. I'm not even too sure what to call him. Sociopath, narcissist, psychopath. Yeah, Machiavelli. But in the end, he did get caught with Aileen's help, because Aileen was the one that had the head about her to get this man caught. She let the authorities know when he was going to land into a certain airport, and that he was going under a certain alias called David Sharon. Yeah, this girl. I'm going to have to clap for her, because that's my shit. Try me. Just you try me. But at the same time, I wouldn't have been caught up in that mess anyway. But then on top of that, Miss Cecilia, the very first lady, tells us at the end of this documentary, oh, she's back on Tinder. She's back on Tinder. She didn't learn anything. She didn't learn a damn thing. This is why I can't feel sorry. Initially, I felt sorry for her at the beginning. But towards the end of this, I can't. I can't. But Aileen, that's my girl. Yep. Think smart. The minute she found out all of this, think smart. Don't let this man fool you. Don't be swindled. Fast forward. In the end, Mr. Simon Lviv, David Sharon, and whatever aliases he has out there, was sentenced to 15 months in Israel for crimes committed in Israel. Not even for what he had swindled out of these women all over the world, just for the crimes in Israel. He ended up being sentenced for 15 months and only serving 5 months. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Did the ladies make anything from it? No. Have they seen their day in court? No. Are they still paying off their debts? Yes. Oh dear. What a painful ending. What a painful ending. As I said, the red flags were there from the beginning. From the minute he asked you for money, you should have ran. I've got nothing more to say. If you like what you heard, please like, comment and subscribe. Till next time.